Guillermo Rigondeaux and Ricardo Cordoba. Rigondeaux, two-time Olympic gold medalist, two-time world champion, defected from Cuba despite the fact that many thought he would have won a third Olympic gold medal if the Cubans had allowed him to go to Beijing in 2008. They didn't because of previous attempts to defect. Cordoba still ranks, despite a stunning loss last year to Graham Dunn in Great Britain, he ranks among the top 5 122-pound fighters in the world. That's the weight class in which they're fighting. You see the 2-year age advantage for Cordoba from Panama, but he's had many, many more professional fights. Arm length advantage, 1 inch for Cordoba, measured from the armpit to the end of the fist. They both weighed in under the 122-pound limit. Tonight, Rigondeaux has gone up only to 124, and Cordoba, more in the manner of a current professional boxer, goes up to 133 overnight. Despite his inexperience, Rigondeaux is the favorite among ringside observers. Let's go to Michael Buffer for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, the action continues here at Jerry Jones Cowboys Stadium, courtesy of Bob Arum's Top Rank Recorded and MB Promotions. This contest presented in association with Carib Promotions. Sponsored by Tecate, Cerveza con Carácter. AT&T Viva Mexico plan. Make calls with your wireless phone to or from Mexico as if they were local calls. EA Sports Fight Night. EA Fight Night champion available March 1st. Smart Communications, the Philippines' largest mobile company. And Top Gear on History Channel. The Gearheads are coming to history with Top Gear. Premieres next Sunday, November 21st. At ringside, the 3 judges scoring this bout will be Raul Caiz Sr., Ruben Garcia, Nelson Vasquez, and inside the ring, your referee in charge of the action, John Shorley. And now 12 rounds of boxing for the WBA Interim Junior Featherweight Championship of the World. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white with blue, official weight 121 pounds. His professional record, 37 victories, including 23 knockouts, only 2 defeats with 2 bouts even. De Ciudad de Panama, here is Ricardo Maestrito Cordoba. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing yellow with white, officially weighing in at 121.5 pounds. A perfect professional record. 6 fights, 6 victories, 5 by knockout. From Miami, Florida, the undefeated Guillermo El Chacal Rigondeaux.
Grasa en la cara. Where's it come, man? Grease. Grease.
You know the drill, under the arm, blah, blah, blah.
You're the best. Rigondeaux. Cordoba. Vamos. Okay. Aquí, look it. Aquí puedo. Okay. Aquí puedo. Okay. This is for the WBA title. Yo quiero una pelea limpia. Obedezcan mis órdenes y protéjanse a todo tiempo. Cuantos buena suerte.
We've seen a bunch of Cuban amateur stars turn pro. Just like in baseball, a bunch of Cuban amateur stars entered the major leagues, but there's only been one El Duque. There's only been one Dragon Slayer on the biggest stage, Orlando Hernandez. We still haven't seen that guy from Cuba. Rigondeaux might be that guy.
Incidentally, Michael Buffer used the traditional French pronunciation, Rigondeaux, and I would have gone there too, except that Guillermo gives it a little Cuban flavor. He says it's Rigondeaux, just as Max just pronounced it. This is the 42nd professional fight for Cordoba. He's 37-2-2. And he's ranked in the top 5 in this division by Ring Magazine, and yet Emmanuel Stewart, Rigondeaux, in only his 7th pro fight, is the favorite.
Well, my amateur scout, my boxer Andy Lee, who told me that Parag was going to be a very tough fight for Danny Jacobs. Also told me that he was in the amateurs with Rigondeaux, and he probably is the best amateur boxer he's ever saw in his life.
247 amateur fights, and according to what I've seen, only 4 losses.
Because of an attempt to defect in Brazil a few years ago, the Cuban Federation would not allow Rigondeaux to go and fight for his nation in Beijing. Had he gone, he would have been favored to win a gold medal. If he had won a 3rd Olympic gold medal, he would have joined Laszlo Papp, Teofilo Stevenson, and Felice Sevon as the only 3 fighters ever to do so. And those are 3 of the greatest names in the history of amateur boxing, of course.
Unbelievable to be compared to them, and in fact, that, as you said, if he had entered the tournament, he would have won the gold medal. It seemed to be pretty obvious.
Rigondeaux has a very good defense, great ring generalship. He's totally relaxed in there, a really good puncher. Obviously, you can see he's a southpaw. And just according to the naked eye, when you watch the 122-pound division, Nishioka is really good, the Japanese fighter. Maybe he's considered the class of the division by many. To my eye, Rigondeaux looks like maybe he's already the best 122-pounder in the world, though he doesn't have the victories yet to prove it.
I'm just so impressed by his balance and body position. You know, I love balance. His weight is evenly balanced, his hands and everything is always in great position, but he's got, seems like his unbelievably gifted coordination that you cannot teach.
And Cordoba's a good, rugged fighter, Jim, as you mentioned. Ring Magazine has him in the top 5 in the division, and yet he's the prohibitive underdog.
And looking at how he weighed in tonight, I think 124, I mean, he could really fight probably at 118 to 126. He could fight in 3 different weight divisions.
And one reason that the very solidly built Rigondeaux is regarded by ringsiders as a favorite over Cordoba tonight, despite Cordoba's vast experience and credentials, is that in March of last year, 2009, Cordoba went to Ireland for a fight with Graham Dunn, which was a Fight of the Year candidate, a knockdown, drag-out affair in which I believe Cordoba was on the canvas 3 times, and he wound up in the hospital afterwards.
Fantastic fight. I was there at that fight.
Because you were with Andy Lee.
I was with Andy that night, but it was a fantastic fight. Unbelievable drama.
The guy is ducking, so he got to pick him up. You got to pick him up. Need a spit bucket. Okay, look. All he got to do, just keep playing with him with the jab. I want him to go to the body, though. Let's go to the body.
Works to the chest, and I like that distance because he wants to put in the left over the top. When you put the jab, he comes over the top with the left hand. So keep on faking him also, but be careful. Be careful and fake him. Fake him after the fake, put in the jab. And bring your hands up as soon as you throw. You understand? We're good? Okay. 3 minutes worth of work. Total focus. This is yours. Are we good? Good. You're going to be a champ. Let's go. Lively, Ricky.
Yes, you recognize both trainers. In Cordoba's corner, Orlando Cuellar out of Miami. You've seen him with the Road Warrior, Glenn Johnson, many times. And, of course, in Rigondeaux's corner, the veteran Ronnie Shields from Houston. You've seen him many times with fighters like Rocky Juarez and Juan Diaz and several others, going back to his days with David Tua. And he is the one who is fortunate enough to be training Rigondeaux right now.
He's got a pretty good stable of fighters right now that he's working with. But, you know, we're speaking about Rigondeaux, but also I make a point that Ricardo Cordoba is not a slouch himself. And it's interesting seeing 2 southpaws fight each other because it's a little awkward because they're used to always fighting right-handers, so it's a little uncomfortable for them, much like when Sergio Martinez was fighting with Paul Williams. And they both got knocked down the first round because they were not used to southpaws.
Every fight should be as awkward as that fight.
Oh, yeah.
Rigondeaux, you know, if you a critique here, it seems, Emmanuel, to me as though he tries to be maybe a little too perfect at times.
Well, that's going back to that amateur computer scoring system, which he had nearly, I guess, almost 300 fights. You know, you don't throw a lot of punches. You try to land just the clean punches to get the computer to points and all of that. And that he's got to get away from because in the professional fight, you have to be busy.
Well, what's happening? Do both men want to counter, Emmanuel?
Yes.
Nothing's happening. Somebody's going to have to take the lead, and it looks as though Rigondeaux Might have seen a momentary opportunity to do so.
Yeah, he's trying to land that right hand, left hand, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's been trying to land that shot, and he's getting closer and closer.
He's a natural counterpuncher, Rigondeaux.
Right, and Ricardo Cordoba is a very good technical boxer himself.
And they want to turn him, Ronnie Shields wants to turn him into a more aggressive fighter, from a boxer to a more crowd-pleasing, aggressive boxer.
Shields is also training another Cuban defector named Arislandi Lara. Fights in a higher weight class, has a very similar style. Also a southpaw.
And Lara also would be well served to put more than 1 and 2 punches together.
Agreed. I believe he's a middleweight.
Junior middleweight, I think.
Junior middleweight. Good-looking fighter. You'll probably catch him in a situation like this somewhere down the road. So there was a moment of aggression from Rigondeaux earlier in the round. Now he goes back to feinting and trading feints part of the time with Cordoba. See there? Trade feint, trade feint. Crowd begins to get restless.
Yeah, but I'm very impressed with Rigondeaux regardless. I mean, his punches are so crisp and sharp and so much power behind him that it looks very good, even though he's fighting a difficult opponent. But I'm very impressed by him.
Before he went to Houston to be with Ronnie Shields, he briefly was with Freddie Roach in the wild card gym in Hollywood. And Roach said yesterday, even though that was a long time ago, I still have bruises on my arms from working the pads for him.
He has to, look, he has to go with the uppercut. The uppercut's got to be there, okay? It's the upper, look. Jab, boom, upper, okay? You got to shoot the uppercut. Uppercut on both sides, and then come at the hook. It's there.
Let him come into you. He's going into the 3rd round. Look at that, 3rd round. Remember, he's got no gas to throw in the 8th round. Keep the way you're going. Forget what people say. Keep your hands up, guard up. How you feeling? Good? All right, let's go. In the ring, 3 minutes in the ring, total focus. Forget about the people.
Round 3 of a scheduled 12 for Rigondeaux and Cordoba. Rigondeaux in the spectacular yellow trunks with white trim. And Ricardo Cordoba of Panama on the way. Emmanuel, you saw the fight in Ireland. Cordoba wound up in the hospital. Was it the kind of fight which could leave a...
Totally opposite of this fight.
Was it the kind of fight that could leave a fighter somewhat diminished?
No, I don't think so. Just the style of certain styles just don't match up. But both of these guys are technical guys who want to counterpunch. In Ricardo's fight over there in Ireland, he's fighting Brennan Dunn, who was a typical aggressive Irish fighter.
And the hospital trip was precautionary?
Yeah, that was precautionary. It was a real brutal fight.
An epic fight. Really, just for pure action, it was the fight of the year.
This is not.
No, this is not the fight of the night so far.
This is not the fight of the hour.
And yet, Emmanuel, you see so many fighters in the gym. If you saw Rigondeaux in a gym, you didn't know who he was, what would you think?
I would be very impressed with him. He has tremendous balance and timing. That is very unusual.
Would you think you're watching something special?
Yes, I would. Just watching him, I'm still very impressed. They're doing the same thing over and over. What's interesting, none of the fighters today jab hard anymore. Everything is just a big explosion.
Feints.
And the jab sets up a lot of things. It relaxes the opponent, and then you let the big shots go. But these guys, every punch is a power punch. Very few effective jabs.
The other thing about a great jab, Emmanuel, is that it brings you back into the proper defensive position.
Yes, and even when they do jab, they're not really like trying to really land
These
the
are
punch.
not effective jabs.
Not effective jabs. The jab hurts more than any other punch because this is the only punch that lands direct in the center of your face where your nose, your eyes, and everything burns, and it distracts the opponent until you can land a big shot.
And it creates offense.
Yes, it does. But these guys, nobody jabs effective too much anymore.
What did that start with? Roy Jones, Floyd Mayweather.
Those are two guys who more or less dispensed with the jab. Mayweather threw a lot of them in one recent fight, but by and large.
No, they did get great speed. It was very good, great coordinated fighters.
It would time the other guy's jab and use it to counter.
As I get ready to list fighters with great jabs, I realize that virtually everyone in my mind is a heavyweight.
Ali.
Sonny Liston.
Yes.
George Foreman. Muhammad Ali.
Lennox Lewis.
Lennox Lewis,
You have
great
to put
jab.
Vladimir there, yo.
Vladimir has a
you got the jab.
blistering jab.
Yes.
So why are there so many more jabbers in the head? Well, we'll get on that subject later. There's Manny Pacquiao, laughing and smiling, as is almost always the case. And you see the confidence he portrays as he looks at the monitor and sticks the thumb up as if to say, yes, absolutely, I'm laughing and smiling. I'm Manny Pacquiao. I'm leading the biggest life of anybody on the planet.
And he loves his job. This job.
I am one of the most celebrated public figures alive, and virtually no one has ever enjoyed that as much as I do. He is having the king of the world experience.
He's a fantastic man.
Incidentally, if you want to read about Pacquiao putting on his shoes next week, the writer behind him was Tom Hauser. You can find his column on Seconds Out. He can find his column on HBO's website, HBO's boxing website. Average through three, Rigondeaux 8 out of 34, Cordoba 5 out of 41. Not much activity in the fight. Harold, how do you have it?
Okay, Jim. You know, it's funny. Neither guy is doing much. You got to start looking at the 4 points in which we score real closely to pick a winner in these rounds. 3-0, 30-27, Guillermo Rigondeaux. You know, Jim, Guillermo's walking him down. He's the effective aggressor. He's the cleaner puncher. If anybody landed some nice clean shots, it's Rigondeaux with that right jab and that straight left hand across the top. Good defense by Guillermo Rigondeaux. And, you know, certainly he's the ring general in there. He's the one that's walking Cordoba down. 3-0, Guillermo Rigondeaux.
And down goes Cordoba.
5,
as the precise
6,
shots
7,
of Rigondeaux
8,
make their
9.
point.
Okay.
I think it was a body punch.
I believe it was
a
too.
straight left.
I think it was the left hand right to the right side of Cordoba's body.
But
Cordoba is not recovering.
Well, he was smart. He saw him rolling the shoulder every time he was throwing the left cross to the head, so instead he changed up and shot it to the body.
You know, I got to say, and now Rigondeaux recognizes it was the right hand to the body that's bothering Cordoba, and he's going after it. I got to say, I can't think of any shot that I've seen Rigondeaux hit with in this fight so far. Has Cordoba actually landed a clean punch?
No, and Cordoba's a pretty crisp puncher himself.
Big right hook by Rigondeaux. And that time he led with the right hook, which I don't think I've seen him do before.
If Rigondeaux committed to the jab and through combinations,
he would be awesome.
You know, but he's as we've mentioned, seems preoccupied with not getting hit at all and making sure every punch he throws lands, which has worked for him through 250-plus amateur fights and so far in his professional career, but may leave the crowd a little restless at times.
Power punches landed this round, and you guys mentioned not getting hit at all. It's a 0 for Cordoba. 10 shots landing for Rigondeaux, including, of course, the body shot that created the knockdown. So this has been a separation round for Rigondeaux, who has put distance between himself and Ricardo Cordoba, even if the official scores are closer than the one Harold Letterman showed you.
No problem, nothing there, no problem. It's nothing, that's nothing. You okay? How you feeling now? Good, you recuperated? All right. The only thing you have to do is keep your elbows close into your body. But look at this, what's wrong with this? Look, this is 5. This guy's got nothing left. He can't go that far. Okay, back again with the movement and the
Here you
jab.
see the knockdown, which was a left to the body, the same left-hand punch that he was shooting at the head for the most of the part of the fight. He shot it to the body, and Cordoba was not expecting it.
Well, that's the liver shot, and we've seen that many times before when a guy gets hit right on the liver, and sometimes it's even a delayed reaction like this before he realizes his legs are gone and he sits down.
Usually a good body punch does create a delayed reaction. Remember Roy Jones' punch with Virgil Hill, very similar to that.
Very similar. Okay.
Very similar.
Of course, the most perfect one of those shots I think I've seen in recent years was Bernard Hopkins hitting Oscar De La Hoya right on the target and ending the fight. Arturo Gatti did it to Leonard Doreen.
Mickey Ward used to do it to a bunch of guys.
Routinely.
Miguel Cotto when he was coming up.
Yeah, but Cotto ultimately developed more variety in his game.
I saw Miguel earlier today and said he had a great successful operation on his right shoulder, and that for the last 3 years he's been pretty much fighting as a one-handed fighter with his left hand only.
You know, based on what I've seen, I would dispute that, but it couldn't hurt him, I guess, to have shoulder surgery. I think he's done pretty well with the right hand the last few years, with the exception of his fight against Manny Pacquiao.
Talking to Rigondeaux yesterday, Jim or Emmanuel, one of you asked him if he watches tape, and he said, and he shrugged it off like not just a fighter who happens not to watch tape, but like what reason in the world would he have for watching tape was his attitude. He's seen it all.
Yes,
he's seen it all. He's not going to see anything new, and whatever his opponent does, he'll adjust.
Yeah, that the basic point was, I'm going to fight my fight anyway. It's not as if I'm going to change according to something I see on tape.
Right.
If the guy can make me change during the fight in the ring, that's another thing. But I'm certainly not going to change because of something I see on a videotape.
Right, he'll change and then he'll still win. I mean, his basic point of view is he is the best, and that the other guy has to worry about watching him.
Well, I think we can probably rest assured that in his, 250, close to 300 amateur fights, he seldom saw the opponent on tape, if ever.
That's what I believe is that. He's not used to that. And he has so much confidence in himself. Very, very confident fighter.
The nature of amateur boxing, when you might fight 3 different guys in a week, is that you got to be ready for anything.
And then sometimes when I was boxing amateur, you fought twice a night. And you had to do this sometimes 3 nights in a row.
You see, he doesn't have the pure athleticism of Gamboa.
Or the speed.
Yeah, or the speed, but he is quick and he is athletic and he's more skilled.
Now, you're talking about Gamboa because he's 4 pounds higher on the weight scale, or are you talking about him because he's another Cuban defector?
Cuban defector. And decorated amateur, gold medalist.
Do you think Rigondeaux, with this body, gets into the crowded sweepstakes at 126 with fighters like Juan Manuel Lopez and various other superstars there?
I think Rigondeaux goes wherever the money is. Wherever that division is, where he can get a payday, is where he's going to go.
And he's going to be a serious competitor in any weight division, around 126 and under.
Yeah.
Moments ago, Lawrence Cole, who will be the referee for the main event tonight, was giving instructions in Antonio Margarito's dressing room.
My primary job is safety, so that's what I'm here for.
Mi prioridad es la seguridad y para eso estoy aquí.
Okay. Any questions, Robert? Anything I need to add?
Just want you to, be aware, that he has to, doing this life. So I
Right, and that's why I say I want to work hands away, because you'll gain that space, and if I break you all the time, you've got to regain that space. So if I work hands away and does that, then you can just continue to work. Pull your elbows in. You can work on the inside, work on the outside, whatever you want, but continue to work until you hear me say break or stop.
Tú sigue trabajando y hasta aquel día. Así es.
Okay. Everything good? ¿Está bien? Excellent. Well, I look forward to it. Very pleasure. Thank you so much, and looking forward to a great fight. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
How cordial. So everything is bouquets and flowers in Margarito's dressing room, but later the atmosphere will be slightly different when we are told Freddie Roach, the trainer of Manny Pacquiao, will go there to watch Robert Garcia wrapping Antonio Margarito's hands. And now I'm told that Roach is actually in the dressing room, and that is about to take place. So we'll continue covering the events in Margarito's dressing room as we go along. And by the way, we mentioned Juan Manuel Lopez as a star at 126. Of course, Yuri Orcus Gamboa is another, and Gamboa is seated at ringside tonight. Perfect uppercut by Rigondeaux as he ducks under the left hand by Cordoba.
I think Ronnie Shears has told him he needs to step it up. And he's going to have to, and he's doing just that too. And as a result, he's getting hit a little bit himself also.
Do you think Ronnie Shields might have said to him, Guillermo, you don't want to get booed on the undercard of a major pay-per-view?
I believe that. And also, you know, Ronnie himself has always tried to push his fighters on. I think he's doing a good job of telling him to be more aggressive, because to win is one thing, but to win and try to win impressively as a professional is very important.
Rigondeaux's knee hit the canvas.
That's a knockdown.
And it's going to be called a knockdown.
It was a knockdown.
So now we're even in knockdowns.
7.
And Rigondeaux claims, incidentally, that he's never been knocked down as an amateur or a pro.
Yep.
So if so, that would be the first time in nearly 300 fights that he's tasted the canvas. He didn't really taste it, that his knee touched the canvas.
He got hit on the chin and his knee touched the canvas.
So that amounts to a mini comeback in the fight for Cordoba.
Actually, if you get hit on any part of the body above the waist, on the shoulders, and you go down as a result of that, legitimately, that's a knockdown.
Anything other than the soles of your shoes?
Yep. But he landed a beautiful left hand shot after he got up.
So that's, if it's true that he's never been down as an amateur,
If it's true.
or in the gym they claim.
Look at Cordoba's style now. He's become the predator.
Yeah, the claim is that he's never been down in sparring, never been down in a fight, never been down, period.
So you witnessed a little history.
But
in fact,
the fight has changed, and look at the tempo. Who's the aggressor now?
Absolutely. And it wasn't a thunderous knockdown. It was just enough to change Rigondeaux's head.
Rigondeaux's been hit a bit in this round, ever since he decided to move it inside, Emmanuel, as you pointed out.
Yeah, when he came in, he just started committing himself. He got hit, left himself open.
So now he goes back to the corner and says, Ronnie, you and your big idea.
I went through 300 fights practically, only lost 4.
I'm blaming you, Ronnie. They touch gloves at the end of a good round for Cordoba. Here's the replay. Right hand. Perfect shot. And watch the glove touch the canvas. Yeah, the knee didn't get there. The right glove did. Referee was entirely alert. John Shorley of California.
We gotta go back to the body.
Cuerpo es todo, ¿ok?
Let's go.
El cuerpo. Dale, que tú sabes.
Come on, the guy's fighting his fight now.
Está peleando tu pelea ahora, dale.
This is what we want. This is what we want the guy to do.
Now we are live now in Antonio Margarito's dressing room for the most momentous hand wrap of the year in boxing. And you see that Freddie Roach is there himself, not just sending his emissary Billy Keane, who stands to his left, but rather making his own pilgrimage, as did Nassim Richardson on behalf of Shane Mosley in Los Angeles, January of 2009, to make absolutely certain that Robert Garcia is totally on the up and up and wrapping Margarito's hands. And frankly, with all the scrutiny which has taken place regarding that issue, who would have expected anything else? Harold, how do you have it through 6?
Look at Jim. 5 rounds to 1, 58-54, Guillermo Rigondeaux. Jim's very interesting. The Cuban trainer, Ricardo Cordoba, said to me, he said, you know, Guillermo Rigondeaux is great for 5 rounds, and after that, it's our fight. And so far, he's looking pretty good. You got to give both guys an extra point for knocking the other, his opponent off his feet. So it's a 10-8 round for Cordoba in round 6, and certainly a 10-8 round for Rigondeaux in round 4 when he landed the liver shot. 5 rounds to 1, Guillermo Rigondeaux.
I'm looking at the confidence that Rigondeaux's face is not what it was earlier. He's a little bit more respectful now of Cordoba, and Cordoba seems to have much more confidence in his punching power and his ability now. It seems to be mentally growing.
When you spend hundreds of fights going 3 or 4 rounds, and then suddenly you see you're in the 7th against another guy who can fight, it's a different ballgame.
Against a guy who's ranked among the top 5 in the world in your weight class, and you're favored to beat him, even though you're only in your 7th professional fight. Rigondeaux is such a veteran with such a deep amateur career that it's regarded as something of a sacrilege to think that he could be thrown for a mental loop in a situation like this. But it's new. He hasn't been here before.
No, and Rigondeaux.
That's hard. It's good.
Guillermo Rigondeaux.
Brilliant.
I get an A for that?
Absolutely.
That's the hardest part of this job, learning these names. But anyway, I think that right jab that dropped him has made him go into a whole different mode of fight.
This is why when I said to the naked eye, he looked like, to me, the best in the division, but didn't have the wins to prove it.
But
can't always trust your eyes. You have to see the results, and Nishioka and these guys have the results.
In the amateur, amateur program that he come from, this is where they would get those points and they would just virtually run sometimes and take off the clock. Once they was told that they was up like 12-4, you have 2 more rounds to go, you just run, and you automatically win, which Cuba was known for that. And it looks like he's fighting that way in this particular fight.
Crowd's coming alive a little bit. It's as though the fans recognize now that the momentum of the fight is completely reversed, and suddenly Cordoba is aggressively stalking Rigondeaux.
Look at how easily Cordoba's hit him with that right jab just in the last 20 seconds, where he wasn't landing anything a few rounds ago.
Landed a body shot and a little right hand upstairs there. Cordoba has totally revived. Incidentally, his trainer Orlando Cuellar is a good cheerleader. Now, you don't need to cheerlead that much for Glenn Johnson. You know that Glenn's always going to be there. But Cuellar's doing a good job of keeping Cordoba alive in this fight. Now let's go back to Antonio Margarito's dressing room live, where still Freddie Roach in the back of the shot, right in center camera, watches while Robert Garcia wraps Antonio Margarito's hands. Now, of course,
you know,
while Roach is here, this is a long period of time and an unusual length of time for Manny Pacquiao to be in the dressing room without his trainer. And you can see that he is having his own hands wrapped by Miguel Diaz in that situation.
What I'm looking at is unusual in both of the hand wrappings. Normally in most states they tell you no tape allowed until it's on top of the gauze. And I'm looking at both of these fighters being allowed to wrap tape right on the skin. And that's one of the problems that a lot of the fighters have been getting problems with commissioners from doing that. And I'm watching this tonight, both corners. And that's often in the rules you can't do that, but they're both wrapping tape directly onto their skin.
So obviously it's kosher in Texas?
They're both letting each other get away with it.
And I wonder, I don't know for sure whether Miguel Diaz has ever wrapped Manny Pacquiao's hands. You saw Pacquiao stop him at one point and begin to move the tape in a different direction.
The reason they don't allow tape on the hand because once they all tape should go on to the gauze because they don't know what may be. It makes the hands much more tighter when you wrap it directly onto the skin, and that's why in most states they make it very clear.
In this round, Rigondeaux seems to be getting his bearings again. He's countering effectively early in the round off of Cordoba's stuff,
but not still fighting with the confidence that he had early on in the fight.
And getting hit much more. I mean, he wasn't getting hit, and now he is.
Little body shot for Rigondeaux.
But I saw the left hand show right across the shoulders of that from Ricardo right away after that also.
Cordoba has a look of great confidence on his face.
Yes, and that's what I'm looking at.
He's believing what Cuellar has told him. The fight is now yours because we're into the second half.
Well, at this stage right now, Cordoba's dictating the fight. Even though he may be out-punted, being out-punched by accurate punches, but he's dictating the fight right now.
How far behind is he on the scorecards? That's a useful question given that we're in the 8th of a scheduled 12. The turnaround began in round 6. First 5 rounds seem to have been dominated by Rigondeaux. We've told you all about the great amateur background, the excitement about him as a professional, but the simple fact of the matter is, watching what he's doing right now, he's not going to win a lot of fans.
He's fighting just like he fought as an amateur now. He's resorted back to trying to take off the clock, but this is 12 rounds, not a 4-round international fight. And this is what they would do and win points across their head, but the computer doesn't work this way.
There's a difference between boxing and running, and he's doing a little running here.
Yes.
Stopping to pot shot once in a while, but basically just moving.
Yeah, this is somewhat like Miguel Cotto in the late rounds against Antonio Margarito, just trying to get away. Interesting because through the 7th round, Rigondeaux still had a CompuBox edge in power shots landed. But he's not going to keep that edge much longer fighting like this. Round 8 ends, and we'll go back to the events in both dressing rooms for the main event, where Antonio Margarito is moving forward now with the wrapping of his hands by Robert Garcia, and still Freddie Roach and his good friend Billy Keane watching in the background. And now here's Pacquiao, who is apparently wrapping his own hands at this moment. What's the precedent for this, Emmanuel?
You know, if you watch it, a lot of the times I see him wrapping his own hand. And I see him on the 24/7 or whatever, and I've been to the gym and I've seen him wrap his own hand quite often. Fighter has to feel comfortable with his hands, and I say it looks like it's a good wrap. And the reason the commissioners put those marks on it is anything happens, anyone takes those wraps loose again and tamper with them in any way, then the commission will see that the alignment of those marks don't line up, and they can actually have you rewrap or either disqualify the fighter once those marks have been on there.
Surely back in the day, in his era as a near penniless up-and-comer in the Philippines, fighting as a teenager, Manny Pacquiao probably had to learn to do everything, including wrap his own hands.
Even though
Rigondeaux, very good. You're doing great.
The last round, he was backing away a lot. Ricardo Cordoba is backing him up, but he didn't punch that much. I still give the round to Rigondeaux.
Because of the few counters he landed early in the round?
Yes, you know, Cordoba's dictating the pace, but he's not punching enough. Right there, he should have blocked the punch and then countered with something right away, but he's not.
2 of the 3 judges are from the United States, and the 3rd is from Puerto Rico. Generally speaking, judges from the USA and Puerto Rico favor aggression. So, given the fact that Cordoba has spent the last few rounds chasing Rigondeaux around the ring, I'd be willing to speculate that maybe the judges gave the round to Cordoba, while you think it might have gone to Rigondeaux.
Because Cordoba's making all of the motions, but he's not punching that much.
Rigondeaux got off 4 punches and missed them all. Cordoba got in a body shot. Orlando Cuellar, according to our interpreter Jerry Olaya, Orlando Cuellar told Cordoba between rounds, you must knock your man out. You cannot win a decision. Now that's interesting because the turnaround, as I said, began in round 6. If we go the full 12, I'm not so sure that Cuellar's math is exactly correct. But obviously he wants his fighter to be aggressive and stay aggressive.
I think he gave him the right instructions.
And Cordoba has limited box office appeal.
Yeah.
Rigondeaux is seen as a guy who may be able to compete at the highest levels,
that's what
and Top Rank could make some money from. And as the promoter of the card, with a potential moneymaker, although not fighting exactly like this, he won't make a lot of money, but a potential moneymaker in the lead promoter's eyes, you know, you can understand where the guy who's considered the B side of the fight, his trainer may think close rounds are not going to him.
Very good statement, Max.
I wonder if Rigondeaux understands. Culturally, this is not acceptable for someone to become a boxing star in America fighting this way. I wonder if he realizes that he's penalizing himself.
I think he's not even thinking it. His instincts is going back after nearly 3.5 fights to doing what he's been doing all his life. Get ahead on points and run.
Okay, look. Tell him to move it a little bit too much now. Look, he can knock this guy out. The guy ready to go. But he got to sit down on the shots now. Like we did the first round. Sit down on the shot. That's it. Let's get a little closer to the guy. Let the guy feel his power. Look, tell him the guy thinks the power is gone. But show him the power is still there.
Back in the dressing rooms, one more time, the most publicized and anticipated wrapping of a boxer's hands in recent history, still ongoing.
And you see the tape going directly on the hand, Emmanuel?
Yeah, something like that.
Why does that make the wrap harder?
The commissioners just have, it's a rule in there. But once they don't want anything going on the skin, on the hands, everything has to be gauze, and the only tape can use be at the top part. The same way they don't want to use any tape anywhere on the knuckle area. It has to be almost about an inch or half an inch beyond the knuckle, back on the back part of the hand.
Average CompuBox numbers per round through round 9 in this fight. Rigondeaux 10 out of 37. Cordoba only 6 out of 43. Cordoba seems to have had the momentum in the last couple of rounds, although, as Emmanuel Stewart points out, he hasn't landed very much. Emmanuel Stewart, how do you have it through 9? Or excuse me, Harold Letterman. How do you have
well,
it?
Emmanuel, how do you have it?
No, Harold, how do you have it?
87, 82, 7 rounds to 2, Guillermo Rigondeaux. You know, Jim, I got to tell you something. I watched round 7 and 8 as close as anybody watched round 7 and 8. And Ricardo Cordoba came forward, and I'm telling you, he didn't let his hands go. He didn't land enough to win those rounds. No way. I mean, he just lost them by not punching, which he does very often. He's doing it right here. He should be punching with both hands. I mean, he's got Rigondeaux running away. For God's sake, let go with a few, you know? Wrap him, knock him out, do something. Meantime, Rigondeaux's piling up points doing that. Anyway, 7 rounds to 2, Guillermo Rigondeaux.
You know, it just goes to show you that just because you're trained by a particular guy who's been successful with a fighter who exhibit a certain style doesn't mean that you're going to be able to go into the ring and do the same thing. Could you imagine Glenn Johnson tracking a man around the ring for 2 rounds with the kind of advantage that Cordoba had and not letting his hands go? That's the last thing in the world that would happen.
You know, and it's funny, when he blocks the punches from Rigondeaux, he doesn't return punches back.
Well, you know, Jim, Glenn Johnson maybe 6 or 7 or 8 years ago may have done that, but has had so much experience at the very top of the world-class level that I guess he's learned. He knows better.
He throws and throws.
He throws and throws to compensate for other advantages his opponent might have.
But you know, a lot of time the crowd, the booing of the crowd does affect some of the judges. And I think that was a factor like in the Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Trinidad fight, when Oscar, the last 2 rounds just took off completely. And it irritates the judges as well as the crowd sometimes. And they just take points, even though a guy may be outboxing the guy, but he's doing it in a running manner.
It still doesn't explain how one of the most decorated and respected judges in the sport gave 3 of the first 4 rounds to Trinidad. De La Hoya certainly wasn't running then. Good counter right hand by Rigondeaux.
Gracias.
Stop. Right.
All right, round 10 comes to a close, and now let's go back to Manny Pacquiao's dressing room, where I'm told that a discussion is taking place.
But it kind of pops up above the bandage. Look at it. No big deal. Okay, go. And it's in between the knuckles. So it's nothing. It's a good wrap. I approve it. It's a good wrap. Keep going, Miguel. It's approved by the commission. Nothing to argue about. Here's the executive director. Oh, I understand that. You said okay. Okay. That's good. That's good.
Apparently the subject is that tape was twisted between Pacquiao's fingers, and after some deliberation, apparently that hand wrap has been approved. And there you can see that Margarito's hand wraps have been approved by the Texas State Commission. And now Freddie Roach will examine the gloves. And incidentally, both fighters are wearing 8-ounce Reyes gloves. And Emmanuel Stewart, that means puncher's gloves.
That's puncher's gloves, and it's normally in a 154-pound world championship fights, the rules state 10-ounce gloves, but they made an exception, even though they're calling a 154-pound junior middleweight title fight. They're running by the rules of the welterweight and the lighter weight division, which means you can use 8 ounces. And you know, Manny Pacquiao loves the Reyes gloves, and naturally being from Mexico, Margarita's very used to them also, because most of his career has probably been
It's amazing.
Reyes gloves.
You can win a belt in the junior middleweight division and yet fight under the rules of the welterweight division because it's a catchweight fight and therefore at 150 instead of 154 pounds.
Well, whatever everybody agrees to.
Yep.
It's the rule.
That's why the most impressive thing to me about Pacquiao is in all the modern kind of bogusy titles, it's the fact that he's won the real lineal championship in 4 separate weight classes, which no one has ever done in any era.
If you watch boxing chat rooms, you can't escape the recognition that over the course of the past several weeks, some fans expressed extreme discontent with the catchweight and sort of accused Pacquiao of cherry-picking titles and cherry-picking opponents by setting up catchweight fights. They seem to forget that fan favorites like Ray Leonard, Oscar De La Hoya, various others have fought at catchweights in the past. It's not unprecedented.
Well, except those same types of fans were upset about it then. I think it's a legitimate complaint, although it shouldn't diminish Pacquiao compared to guys like Ray Leonard, because as you mentioned, Jim, they did the same thing. That's why this modern era of belts diluting the significance of championships, even in this modern era, Pacquiao has done stuff that no one, including Henry Armstrong, has ever done. And that's what's so impressive about him.
And I'm glad you mentioned for linear weight division, because right now, some of these divisions, you have a 118-pound champion, 122-pound champion, 126-pound champion, 130-pound champion, 135. I mean, it's only 2 or 3 pounds between the 5 pounds. So, you can accumulate titles in all those divisions.
But there are
the
40
linear championship, different weight divisions, as compared to years back, it's 135, 147, 160.
Hey, how about the 154-pound belt they're contesting tonight? If Margarito wins the fight, he gets a championship belt for coming back 19 months after a suspension for loaded gloves and fighting in a division where he does not plan to fight in the future. If Pacquiao gets the belt, he gets a belt for fighting a guy who isn't a 154-pound fighter by his own admission in his first trip to the division. What isn't bogus about that?
Well, what's not bogus is Pacquiao won the flyweight title, the real one, at 112, and he's he's fighting a 150-pounder tonight. That's 38 pounds.
That's amazing.
Let's go. Look. Tell him, look. This fight could be close, okay? This is the last round. We need the last round, okay? Let's go. We got to have this last round. That was a good round. But sit down with more combinations in the middle, okay? Let's go, baby. Let's go. Look at me.
Atácalo más. You gotta attack him more lively, Ricardo. When he throws, you gotta throw punches. Ricardo, and throw him when he throws. You gotta walk. When you walk and throw. That's what you understand. You understand? You have to do that. Let's go. You gotta work the jab and work the ribs.
Freddie Roach has returned now to the dressing room of his fighter, Manny Pacquiao. And so he observes now the final stages of Pacquiao's hand wrapped by himself, partially assisted by Miguel Diaz, who's a veteran, and has wrapped literally dozens of fighters' hands over the years.
My idea of wrapping hands, as long as you don't use plaster of Paris, use whatever amount of gauze that you need and take to keep your fighter's hands from being broken or hurt. I mean, if you use an excessive amount, all you're doing is putting extra weight on your fighter's hand anyway.
Coming to the 12th round, you saw Harold Letterman's scorecard, and you saw that Harold has Rigondeaux with a 5-point margin, 106-101. But what if a couple of judges watched the 7th and 8th rounds and gave those rounds to Cordoba because he was constantly going forward? Then that would make it a 1-point margin. So I'm not certain this isn't a close fight coming to the 12th.
You may be right, Jim.
We shall see.
I'll tell you what, it's definitely not, is a good fight.
No, it's not a fight that's going to tremendously enhance anybody's reputation. It's not going to send people out in the streets saying, I'm dying to see Guillermo Rigondeaux again. Unfortunately.
Still waiting for El Duque, Jim. The El Duque of Cuban boxing to blow in and win the World Series.
So of all the Cuban defectors we've seen, is Joel Casamayor still head and shoulders above the rest?
The most accomplished. Not the most talented, but the most accomplished by far.
The one who made the best adaptation to American professional prize fighting.
Yep.
Stop. Break. Gracias.
One question I'm often asked by boxing fans is, what would Teofilo Stevenson have done as a professional boxer? And one thing I always point out is, he never fought more than 3 rounds, so you don't know.
He wanted to fight Ali, but he wanted it to be a 3 or a 5 round fight. I mean, you know.
And you see a good example of this guy here, even though was, as you said, on the same level of accomplishments as an amateur
Stevenson
boxer.
and Felice.
But you see him fighting not a super fighter, but the fact that the fight has went over 3 or 4 rounds has made he's had to run back to amateur tactics. I'm just trying to run and stay ahead while he's got points.
And he's going past 8 rounds for the first time tonight, and what you saw was that he became a significantly less effective fighter after the first 4 rounds.
And all that said, he's probably up handily in a fight, or could be up handily in a fight against the top 5 or at worst 10 fighter in the division after 6 pro fights, and we're being highly critical, which tells you what we all think of his potential, even at the age of 30.
Even though Stevenson's beat a lot of our American heavyweights, most of the kids were inexperienced when they fought him, and he was a seasoned professional fighter, fighting as an amateur, with nearly 200 fights when he was fighting the guys like John Tate and those type kids.
When he does this, I don't see a single sold ticket or sold pay-per-view hookup. He is going to have to be more entertaining to succeed as an American professional.
Yep.
He's doing what he's been doing his whole career.
And you hear the response of the crowd to what may be another victory for Rigondeaux, trying to stay unbeaten in his early professional career.
Carl Moretti, one of the matchmakers for Top Rank, walked into the ring with a weary look on his face as he glanced at Rigondeaux.
Carl Moretti's a pro. So the forward Cuban amateur star, Guillermo Rigondeaux, goes 12 rounds for the very first time in his career. Errol Letterman gives the last 2 rounds to Cordoba. And as I said, to me, the abiding mystery remains rounds 7 and 8. Errol gave them both to Rigondeaux. I think it's conceivable that Cordoba may have gotten a nod from official judges. That would make it extremely close. And the official judges are the veteran Raul Caiz Sr. from California, 44 title fights. Haven't seen a really bad card from him. Dr. Ruben Garcia of Texas, 55 title fights. Juarez over Barrios in the 11th round. Haven't seen a really outrageous card from him. Nelson Vasquez of Puerto Rico is very good. Recent notable fights, Pacquiao over Claudio, 119-109 for Pacquiao. He found a round to give to Claudio. That's actually a more veteran, experienced judging team than the 3 who have been assigned to the main event. And now let's go to Michael Buffer to find out who won this.
Ladies and gentlemen, here at Cowboy Stadium, we go to the scorecards. Raul Caiz Sr. scores at 114-112 for Cordoba. Nelson Vasquez has it 117-109 for Rigondeaux. And Ruben Garcia has the deciding vote, 114-112, to the winner by split decision, El Chacal, Guillermo Rigondeaux.
Mild applause, some boos from the crowd. Rigondeaux gets the split decision. I was right only about 1 judge, not 3.
Well, 14-12 was close.
Final CompuBox numbers, and you'll see that Rigondeaux landed considerably more, 47 more, even though Cordoba threw 58 more punches. So it's the difference in connect percentage, the greater precision of Rigondeaux, in effect, which wins him the fight. Well, not to make light of the misfortunes of the Dallas